Imagine a kind, gentle old lady with a warm smile, one who bakes homemade tamales, tends to her beautiful rose garden, and offers a safe haven to the troubled and forgotten. Now, imagine that the same woman hides a secret so dark and twisted that it would chill your very soul. This is the true story of Dorothea Puente, a woman who became one of California's most notorious murderers, all while appearing to be nothing more than a kindly landlady. In today's video, we will unravel the shocking details of Puente's life, from her troubled beginnings and a string of petty crimes to the horrifying murders that rocked an unsuspecting community, and finally to the courtroom drama that ended her reign of terror. Stay with us as we explore every chilling chapter of this case, a story that will leave you questioning. How can evil hide behind such an unassuming smile? Dorothea Puente was born Dorothea Helen Gray on January 9, 1929, in Redlands, California. Her early life was marked by hardship and chaos. Both of her parents battled alcoholism. Her father, tormented by his own demons, even threatened to take his own life in front of his children. He died of tuberculosis when Dorothea was just a child. Her mother, who worked in a life filled with her own struggles, lost custody of Dorothea and her siblings. By the end of 1938, tragedy struck again when her mother died in a motorcycle accident. With no family to care for them, Dorothea and her siblings were sent to an orphanage, a place that, instead of providing solace, became another setting for pain and abuse. It was in these early years that Dorothea's future would be silently set on a dark and dangerous course. By the time Dorothea was a teenager, she had already encountered more than her fair share of loss and despair. At just 16, she married Fred McFall, a soldier who had returned from World War II. In the years that followed, she experienced both love and heartbreak. 2 daughters were born, yet one was sent away and the other placed for adoption. She also suffered the crushing pain of a miscarriage, a loss that added to the weight of her troubled life. But it wasn't just personal tragedies that marked her early adult years. In 1948, Dorothea found herself on the wrong side of the law. Arrested for using forged checks to buy women's accessories, she pleaded guilty to forgery. This early brush with the criminal justice system hinted at the dark path she would follow. By the early 1950s, Dorothea was already reinventing herself. In a bold and deceptive move, she married merchant seaman Axel Brand Johansson and assumed a new identity, calling herself Thea Singoala Nyarda, a persona that claimed roots in exotic lands. This was more than just a name change. It was a deliberate act of disguise, a way to mask her past misdeeds and start new. As the years went on, Dorothea's criminal behavior escalated. In 1960, she was arrested again, this time for operating a bookkeeping firm that served as a front for a brothel in Sacramento. Her reputation as a troublemaker began to grow. Diagnosed by doctors as a pathological liar with an unstable personality, she seemed destined to repeat her patterns of deception and criminality. Yet, in a strange twist of fate, Dorothea managed to reinvent herself yet again. She began to portray herself as a devout and caring Christian woman. Using the name Sharon Johansson, she hid behind a facade of respectability and began offering refuge to those society had forgotten. Young women escaping abuse, alcoholics, the homeless, and people with mental health issues. In the 1970s, Dorothea Puente established a boarding house in Sacramento, a place that, on the surface, seemed to be a sanctuary for the vulnerable. She hosted Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and helped people sign up for Social Security benefits. To the community, she was a kind, generous woman who cared for those in need. But behind this caring image lay a sinister motive. Dorothea was not merely offering shelter. she was exploiting the very people who trusted her. Many of her tenants were elderly or mentally vulnerable, and she began to manipulate them for her own financial gain. She would take control of their Social Security checks, forging signatures and cashing the benefits for herself. The trust the community had in her allowed Dorothea to carry out her plan with impunity. For years, she continued to hide behind the guise of a respectable landlady, all while committing crimes that would shock the nation. By the late 1980s, whispers of missing tenants and unexplained deaths began to circulate. One of the key turning points in this dark saga came in November 1988, a month that would forever change the course of Dorothea Puente's life. On November 17, 1988, Dorothea was flown from the Hollywood Burbank Airport back to Sacramento. Escorted by the police, she was booked into the county jail and formally charged with the murder of Alvaro Bert Montoya. Montoya was just one of the many victims whose life had been cut short under mysterious and sinister circumstances. Not long after, the full scope of her crimes started to emerge. In March 1989, while charges against one of her accomplices, Ismael Flores, were dismissed due to the statute of limitations, investigators were piecing together the grim puzzle. It was soon revealed that Dorothea had been responsible for the deaths of multiple tenants, victims who had been drugged, left to overdose, and then buried in open pits in her backyard. The evidence was mounting, and the community's belief in her innocence was shattered. On March 31, 1989, an amended complaint was filed, charging her with 9 counts of murder. The case grew larger than anyone had imagined, as details emerged that painted a picture of cold calculation and systematic abuse of trust. The trial of Dorothea Puente became one of the most complex and harrowing legal battles in California's history. By May 1990, the prosecution had built a staggering case, calling 71 witnesses and introducing over 108 exhibits. Every piece of evidence pointed to one undeniable conclusion. Beneath the caring facade lay a cold-blooded killer. After numerous delays, the case finally moved forward. On June 19, 1990, a judge ruled that there was ample circumstantial evidence to send Dorothea Puente to trial. The legal process was long and winding, filled with twists and deadlocks that kept everyone on edge. By October 1992, it was decided that she would face all 9 counts of murder. A large jury was selected, and the trial began on February 9, 1993. Over the course of the trial, 156 witnesses took the stand, more than 3,100 exhibits were examined, and over 22,000 pages of transcripts were recorded. Every detail of her life and crimes was laid bare before the court, revealing the depth of her deception and the extent of her murderous acts. The jury's deliberation stretched on for days. After 35 long days of debate, on August 26, 1993, the jury finally reached a verdict on 3 counts of murder. Dorothea Puente was convicted for the murders of Benjamin Fink, Leona Carpenter, and Dorothy Miller. However, the jury remained deadlocked on 6 other counts, unable to reach a unanimous decision on those victims. Even during the penalty phase, the divisions among the jurors persisted. Ultimately, on October 13, 1993, Dorothea was spared the death penalty. Instead, on December 10, 1993, she was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a sentence that would confine her to Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla for the rest of her days. The trial of Dorothea Puente was a landmark case that shocked the nation. It forced us to ask uncomfortable questions about how a person with such a seemingly harmless appearance could commit such unimaginable crimes. Her ability to maintain the facade of a caring landlady while coldly exploiting the vulnerable remains one of the most disturbing aspects of her story. Even after her conviction, the impact of her crimes continued to reverberate throughout the community. In August 1997, an appellate court affirmed her murder convictions, dismissing allegations of juror misconduct after a thorough examination. By September 1998, all challenges in the courtroom were closed, cementing her fate. Dorothea Puente's life came to an end on March 27, 2011, when she died of natural causes in prison at the age of 82. For many, her death marked the end of a dark chapter in California's criminal history. But for others, her story remains a chilling reminder that evil can lurk behind even the most unsuspecting faces. As we reflect on this case, many questions remain. How did a woman who appeared so kind and helpful manage to hide such monstrous deeds for so long? How did the community, trusted by social workers and neighbors alike, fail to see the signs of the horror unfolding right under their noses? Dorothea Puente was a master of deception. She carefully constructed an image of a nurturing, gentle matron, even as she betrayed that trust in the most callous way imaginable. In her mind, the vulnerable were merely tools to be exploited, a means to an end. And for years, her charming smile and warm hospitality masked a cold, calculating heart. This case forces us to confront a disturbing truth. Sometimes, evil is not found in the shadows or behind closed doors, but in plain sight, camouflaged by normalcy, hidden within the everyday routines of life. Dorothea Puente's story is not just a tale of murder and deception. It is a cautionary tale about the masks people wear and the darkness that can lie beneath even the gentlest exterior. Her life and crimes challenge us to remain alert, to question our assumptions, and to remember that evil can sometimes be hidden in plain sight. Thank you for joining us as we revisited the haunting saga of Dorothea Puente. If this story sent chills down your spine and made you think twice about the true nature of those around you, please consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth true crime stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think allowed someone like Puente to evade suspicion for so long? And what can we do to better protect our communities from those who hide behind a smile? Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the most unassuming faces hide the darkest secrets.